Welcome, everybody. My name is Marcus Brown. With me, I have the great Jeremy Browning, our Uber electrical expert extraordinaire, Esquire. I'm
Super nerd.
super nerd. And today we're going to talk about SOLIDWORKS Electrical, specifically services with SOLIDWORKS Electrical. So services specifically relates to customization, things like getting your title block right, getting your revision scheme correct, numbering things the way you like them numbered. Do you like them numbered per page, per section, per book? These kinds of customizations really to make this automated tool really powerful. Let's first say hello to Jeremy Browning. How are you doing today, Jeremy?
Doing all right.
Fantastic. So you're going to be doing all the heavy lifting, but I thought I'd at least put a preface up here, kind of start by discussing some of what we're going to be talking about with respect to getting your tool optimized and customized to be ready to do the work the way you do it at your company. Seems like nobody ever does anything the same way. Have you ever been to multiple companies making electrical schematics, Jeremy, and they all, or any two, are doing everything exactly the same as any other company you've met?
No, I've never seen one company do it exactly the same way as another one.
So everybody kind of follows the same rules, right? You number your wires, you create bills of materials, you create wire lists, but everybody's got different columns and different color schemes and different line formats. And so getting the tool to work for you and understand what it's supposed to look like will save you so much time. And for those of you who've ever worked in a tool that is supposed to be automated but is not set up to build the schematic the way you want, it can be really difficult, almost wrestling with that tool. So what I typically see with electrical schematic design tools, people fall into three camps. One camp is you have got a really awesome tool and it's perfectly set up and ready to go for your company. How often do we encounter companies that have everything completely ready to go and set up? Raise your hands in the chat. Do you have your electrical tool set up to where every symbol you need, every lettering you need, everything is completely ready to go and it fully conforms to your standards? I mean, those kinds of things happen. Those do exist. They're very rare, and they generally take a ton of time to get set up. So the other two options we see a lot of times are people that have a tool that's not set up and they spend as much time designing their schematic as they do just sort of fighting the tool, fixing the formatting as they go, or they're using something very manual, such as a DraftSight or an AutoCAD manual, just so that they can take full control over what they're doing. They don't have to fight anything. So SOLIDWORKS Electrical is a database-driven program, and we've got a lot of services available. Jeremy, what kinds of services do we typically see with this product?
With SOLIDWORKS Electrical, we typically see services like what you see on the screen: quick starts, trainings, environment customizations, custom projects that people will have us accomplish, whether that's from start to finish or picking up where you're leaving off, if you just need some assistance finishing up a project. So typically we're going to see new companies who purchase SOLIDWORKS Electrical want more quick starts and trainings, and companies that have been using SOLIDWORKS Electrical for a little while want more in-depth training or advanced training or assistance finishing off or creating a custom project.
So a quick start, would that be really for any company starting out, or perhaps even for a company that's been using it but never really sat down and implemented it to begin with?
Absolutely. A quick start for a new company would include installation of the SQL database, installation of what we call the application data, which is where all of your projects are stored, your symbols are stored, everything about your environment is stored there. Very similar to the archives in PDM, if you guys are using that. Existing customers can also benefit from a quick start because whenever we deliver this quick start, we give you a working project template, like an environment, if you will, of something that I've put together across the years. It has the correct formula set up for ANSI environment. It's a known working environment, so you can kind of hit the ground running using that.
And a lot of these overlap with each other. Obviously, if you get some environment customization, there'll be a little bit of training involved in teaching you how to use it. Custom projects could be anything, right? I mean, that's kind of an umbrella. But as far as the customization is concerned, what are the kinds of things people typically get customized? What is usually involved in the implementation?
Yeah, so the things that I see people customize the most are project templates, like the structure of their project. How are they going to lay out their folders, their schematics, their 3D models, and standardization of that project template. Another thing that I see people customize right out of the gate are title blocks. That's super important, especially if you want your schematic to say like your company name and who's designing it and the revision level and things like that are pretty important to a project. A bill of material is something that I see customized a lot. Whenever you think about bills of materials inside of SOLIDWORKS Electrical, don't really just pigeonhole yourself to a BOM like bill of material. Also think wireless. I've integrated with wire labelers. So there's lots of different report types. If you think of it as a report rather than a bill of material, then the world kind of expands out, and we can gather all that information out of the project and customize that to integrate or just to look the way you want, whether you want different titles or different pieces of information. Those are probably the top things that I see customized in SOLIDWORKS Electrical.
Yeah, those reports are very, very useful for taking the design that you've built and then sort of generating any other type of information you need from that plan, right? Wire from to lists, individual wire numbers, just about any kind of a task list you would need for the installation team could be generated to meet their specific needs. So let's see what that looks like if we can. I mean, like a project template, what does that generally look like, and what's involved in putting that together?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's jump over to electrical here. So this is the user interface of SOLIDWORKS Electrical. I have nothing open right now, but typically what you're going to see is we're going to help you set up a project template so that it's a standard starting point for every project. Now that starting point can be literally anything. It could be a completely blank project, or it could be a project that's like 50% of the way there because you guys do the exact same thing over and over again with slight modifications. So you can build out the thing that's going to be the same every time and have a project template based on that. Sometimes I see people have project templates based on project types, right? So you might have a project template that's based on a harness, and then another one that's based on controls, like a control box. So you can have these project templates really do whatever you want. Just think of it as like a known, good, working, standard starting point. What you do is you go to your project manager and you would literally hit new, and you have a list of all the project templates. You'll see that I have some default ones that are installed here, but also have what is our quick start project with this project template. So if I just go ahead and open that, obviously this is just a brand new project that I'm opening right here in front of you. There's no tricks up my sleeve, at least not yet, right? And what you see is you see the book, you see a schematics folder with some already predefined schematics with 2-digit numbers, something else that we could customize, obviously, whether you want single-digit numbers, double, or you want them to be based on like the folder that it's in. But this is a good starting point from a structure standpoint that I've seen benefit a lot of companies. And this isn't anything magic, right? Just creating a new folder with some organization. But this is what a project template really entails from your schematic standpoint, or what your project looks like. But the project templates also contain all the project configurations. And this is kind of where the rubber meets the road in the configuration of a project template. So we're going to jump in here, and you'll see that there's a lot of options. Sometimes this can look really daunting. It's like you open up a project configuration, like, oh no, there's so much to choose from here. I've made this simple, is really what I've done. I created this project template so that I deliver this to you guys in a quick start. I teach you how to use it. And if there's anything that you're like, oh, we have to do this, like we have to name our components by its row or its page and rung number or something like that, then we can go look at that. We can like go to the mark tab, and we can go down to like the formula for the components, and we can drive over to the formula manager, and we can change some of this stuff. So a lot of these things that you're going to see here in this formula manager, obviously you can see all the different variables that you can use and build out a formula. A lot of these things are set it and forget it type situations in SOLIDWORKS Electrical. However, the set it can be challenging. So getting it accurate out of the gate is really the end goal of setting up project templates for you guys.
So for anything that you're doing, you're basically pulling data from somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere you might have a numbering scheme or configuration, you're pulling data and you're configuring it to be 1 or 2 digits or converting it to something. You can put in mathematical formulas if you need to. And once you get that formula set, then you don't really have to deal with it ever again. It's just automatic and it follows your standard perfectly.
Correct. And what's beautiful about that is if you have multiple users inside SOLIDWORKS Electrical, you won't have user A with a different set of title blocks and schematics and symbols and manufacturer parts. Everybody's using the same information. And that's really the end goal of electrical services, is to get people going as fast as possible while creating a company standard.
So, for example, title blocks, right? I'm assuming you create a title block and then you also put it into the project template. What's that project or what's that title block look like?
Yeah, so a pretty basic title block, I'm just going to open this, is obviously an empty schematic page, but that's okay because we're talking about title blocks here, right? Title blocks you can put anything on. Now there's a bunch of different types of title blocks inside of the software. So we can set up a title block for a line diagram, which is like a project level overview, a multi-line schematic, which is your traditional schematic page with multiple wires and cables and stuff like that. But there's also cover pages or a report, which essentially is a drawing list. So you can customize each one of those title blocks individually. Now this is what a title block looks like when it's used, but you can also dig in and we can go to this title block and we can open this title block up. If we do that, then you're going to see kind of behind the scenes. We're going to lift the veil so that you can actually see the information. These are electrical attributes that are being passed back and forth. You'll see folio TZ0L1, and then all this revision information. All of this stuff matches to the information that's inside the project. So that way, you really just have to go to one place and change that information, and that information then disseminates across the entirety of the project. So that just means that if your title blocks are set up properly, and we help you set those title blocks up with electrical services, then you could go to the project information and make a change, and every single page reflects that. So if you guys are creating notes that you're putting down for like revision on every single page, and you're having to do that whenever you bump a rev, just think about all that work just kind of going away. Like you just don't have to do it anymore. But adding images or customizing the way this block looks down at the bottom. Sometimes they want them up on the top or the side or just in one corner. Depending on your company standard, we can make this title block sing. So this is what a title block looks behind the scenes. But also we go into that electrical project configuration and we can set up the default title blocks for each one of these different drawing types. Going back to that standardization, right? So we're going to set up a title block that looks exactly the way you want, and whether that's a cover page or a regular schematic or even like a 2D panel layout. And we're going to set that up exactly the way you want, and then moving forward, every project will use that title block.
Sometimes, like for example, the bill of materials or the wire list or something like that sort of looks attached to the title block, but that wouldn't be a title block, right? That would be a report. What kind
Correct.
of do you do?
Yeah, that's actually a report. I'm going to go grab a project that actually has some data in it, not just an empty one. So I'm going to go here to my electrical projects manager, and I'm just going to open like something that if you guys are an existing customer, you've probably seen this as a demo already. That's okay. It just has data in it. So you're going to see that there's a drawing list. This is actually a report, believe it or not. This is just a list of all the pages, maybe a table of contents, if that's what you're going to call it. But you can see that there's a number of pages, there's stuff inside this project. Now, what we can do is we can then go look at our project and reports. And when we're looking at these reports, you can see that there's a bill of materials. So notice that there's a bill of materials right here, and that's a preview, but I haven't even generated it. So we're talking about reports and specifically a bill of material. You can export a report to Excel, TXT, or XML files. So if you need this report to integrate later down in your process, like that wire labeler example, then we can export it to XML and those two machines can talk to each other. But if you want to customize a report, then we can go here to properties and let's just say that you have like an internal part number that you guys want to show. Then we can go in here and we can add a column like an article number. Article number is built into the software as an internal part number. So let's say that instead of the header of article number, we want like internal part number, internal part num, and don't have a PDM attribute called part num and part number. You'll get in trouble there. But you can see that we can pull that information and we can move this thing around. So if you want to like reference and then the internal part number, we can change this and then apply it and hit close. And then now we're going to have those article numbers built into your report. So it's really just about gathering data and figuring out what data you want. Now, what's beautiful about reports is, especially in electrical with these reports, is a lot of times you'll think of a bill of material and you have like an overall BOM. Well, in SOLIDWORKS Electrical, you can have these BOMs geared for specific audiences. And this is something I help companies do a lot of times. We'll have a bill of material that's geared specifically for procurement or order entry team, right? And it's going to have a column that has who you're purchasing it from, whether it's Newark or McMaster or RS Electronics or any one of those electrical vendors, what their part number is, and maybe even a price. You can pull that and you can group it by who you're purchasing it from so that your order entry team is like, oh, this is beautiful. But that same data, whenever you're actually building this machine, you're going to need to know that, but maybe you have a guy that's going to go out into the inventory location and they need to pick it out of inventory. Well, you can have that same bill of material sorted by inventory location, so it now becomes a pick list. And it's just the same information. We just kind of massage the bill of material to create new standard bill of materials that are going to get generated at the end of a project so that you don't have to do those any longer.
So this is simple, right? This view, I just pick whichever list I want, whatever report I want, and I see the information. But then when you went into that back end where you sort of define the columns, that looks like you're in a programming environment, right? Like you're in the Matrix or something. So
yeah,
that information is available, but to build something like this from scratch requires a tremendous amount of additional knowledge and information and programming in some cases. This is the kind of stuff we want to help with so that you really don't ever have to go into this dialogue. You're spending all your time just with the reports and the tables set up the way you like it. I especially like the ability to just export real quick because you've kind of got all your major components sized up, but you haven't got everything detailed out and connections made yet. Purchasing is like, hey, your long lead time items need to get on order soon. So I can export really quickly without putting any extra effort into it, exactly the columns they need. And then later on is when I'll actually get to that part of the drawing. So,
absolutely. Yeah, the last thing you want to do is go down here and have to click on expert mode. Nobody wants to have to go in here because it even gives you a warning like, hey, you're going to break this. It says, here be dragons. And whenever you hit OK, you see that it is actually a SQL query. So this is the last thing that you ever want to have to get into. And this is what we can assist you in setting up right out of the gate so that you never have to get in here. Absolutely.
So, for example, you were talking about wires, right? A machine that cuts, strips, and labels wires. You'd be able to kick out a formatted XML or spreadsheet or whatever in exactly the format that machine uses so that you could hit go from here, feed it into that machine, and it'll spit out all your wires ready to go.
Absolutely. I know the most frustrating thing. Yeah, no manual entry. The most frustrating thing for me when I was done with an electrical project was having to create bills of materials. When you know that you're kind of done with the project, you're kind of tapping out. But now you have to spend a couple of days creating bills of materials, wire lists, and program the wire labeler. We could go here to this list of wires by line style, and we can change this to where instead of like showing the origin, destination, and the wire number and the length, we can actually just have this say its wire name. And that way you just integrate with that, like an XML or an Excel file to integrate with the wire labeler.
Yeah, whatever's easiest for the temp who happens to be on the line that day, putting everything together, right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Uh, so things like wires, right? Wires, revisions, components. There's always that numbering scheme, that naming scheme, and with wires, it even gets more complicated because it depends on the style of wire, right? The gauge, the color, any number of different types of things. How hard is it to do or to create really intelligent numbering schemes that are aware of where they are and what type of wire they are?
Yeah, so we call them wire styles in SOLIDWORKS Electrical. And what's beautiful about it is it's not like drawing a wire with a crayon, all right? It's going and pulling a wire out of inventory and using it. So you can create wire styles based on exactly what you guys use at your company. And we can assist you with that. So there's a couple different ways to get there. One of them is to go to this mark and then click on this button, Wire Style Management, or you can hit the bottom half of this configuration and we can go straight to wire style. These are the default wire styles that you're going to see in this project template here. You'll see that there's group 0 electrical, group 1 hydraulic, and group 2 pneumatic. So just FYI, I've talked about this a number of times. SOLIDWORKS Electrical Schematic probably should have been called SOLIDWORKS Schematic because you can do hydraulic and pneumatic schematics in here as well. But I'm not marketing, so I don't get to name projects, right, or products. But yeah, these wire styles, they're very specific. So whether they're a different color, a different gauge, a different bend radius, go ahead and make yourself a new wire style, or even if it's a different numbering scheme. So let's say that you have two 24-volt AC wire styles that are both 10 gauge, but one of them you want to number numerically, and the other you want to number by row and page, then we can do that. So if we go look at this existing wire style, this is a 24-volt AC, as indicated by the little tilde. So it's an AC 24-volt here. And then there's two different ways to number these without getting too deep into what the difference is. Just know that there's a formula and I can assist you in choosing which one is the best one to meet your company's needs. But we can go dig in and we can look at these variables and simple formulas like origin mark, origin terminal, signal, wire name, whatever you want. We can drive this so that you don't ever have to touch it again, right? It's going to be built exactly the way that you need to use this in the future. We also have functions in here like mathematical functions and stuff like that. But it's pretty simple. This is very similar to the report manager. This is very simple to create a style. There's really two areas to kind of focus on in a wire style. There's the general area, think 2D, and then the cabling area, think 3D, right? And so everything in SOLIDWORKS Electrical is representation of a real life scenario. And so that's really the difference between a regular old schematic tool with lines on paper and something that's an intelligent software like SOLIDWORKS Electrical. Is we're trying to represent the real world as best we can. And so if you have a different wire color or a different gauge, then you can fill this information in and have as many of these wire styles as you need.
So we haven't even gotten to the integration with 3D, right? The ability to automatically route the wires and place the components in 3D and link them dynamically to your schematic. But when I see these libraries, I think, okay, that's great. Those are some good starting points, but my library doesn't match that, or maybe my library is one specific vendor, right? I'm always using this particular vendor or this particular manufacturer's, their entire library is mine. Do I have to go build that, or is that something that is that available to download?
Yeah, so one thing that I help a lot of companies do is to build out their library and to customize their library. First and foremost, you would just go to this library management and we're going to create a custom library for you guys so that you just throw anything that you need to make into your library so that it's very organized and you're able to find everything that you need. But when we're talking about libraries can contain literally anything, whether it's wires, cables, manufacturer parts, title blocks even, or symbols. And so libraries is a really all-encompassing term in SOLIDWORKS Electrical, but there's tons of stuff that you can get. If we're talking about manufacturer parts, which is 2D information to fill out each one of your symbols, there's a website out there called the Electrical Content Portal. And there's actually a button right here. It says the Electrical Content Portal. If you were to click on that, then that's going to open up a web page for us, and it's going to prompt us to log in. Don't steal my password. Just kidding.
Oh, mine's all dots too.
Oh man, it's the same as mine. How did we figure that one out? But if you go to the catalog, this is where you can download manufacturer information that would then populate your manufacturer library, right? So this is one example of something that I can assist you guys with. We can go download any of these manufacturer parts that you might need to fill out your manufacturer parts library. This works hand in hand with 3D Content Central. 3D Content Central is another website hosted by Dassault Systems that is specifically for 3D models in SolidWorks. So you can use Electrical Content Portal to download the 2D information that fills out your schematics, and then in tandem with that, grab the 3D model from that same manufacturer that they've uploaded to the 3D Content Central library, and then kind of marry those two in SolidWorks Electrical.
Yeah, a lot of these are coming from the actual vendors, so that they're verified information.
Correct.
Jeremy, there's 10 times more stuff here than what we were able to show. I guess one way to kind of start to summarize this is that if you get into SolidWorks Electrical and you want it to behave a certain way or look a certain way or do a certain thing, that is possible in most, if not all cases, right?
Correct. I would, yes, I would concur with that statement.
So that's the big takeaway, is that this, if you have a minor tweak to be made or you want to get in there and learn this, this is definitely something you can do. But we recommend, and we find great success with, getting you involved, asking you the questions and saying, is this possible and what would it take? And if they're ready to do that, they just need to reach out, and you're happy to have that conversation, right?
Absolutely. What I would suggest is don't get frustrated. So if you are using electrical and it's not doing what you want and you're having to fight the software, contact us and we can help you out, whether that's, just doing some training or that's setting up your entire environment or anything in between. If you're getting frustrated, you shouldn't be. It should be an easy tool to use. It should be set up to assist you, not fight you.
Absolutely. And when it's singing, it's absolutely the greatest thing ever. Drop in your symbols, drop in some wires, hit generate reports, generate everything, and you're out the door, man. I love it. Jeremy, thank you very much. I appreciate it.